Professor Chukwuma Soludo has been declared winner of the Anambra State Governorship election in a landslide victory. The All Progressive Grand Alliance candidate secured 422,644 votes, defeating his closest rival, Nicholas Ukachukwu of the All Progressives Congress, who garnered 99,445 votes. Now, the election received international endorsement as UN observer Jim Oko certified the process as being internationally best practices. Now, Soludo won all 21 local government areas in the state, with the returning officer confirming that APGA candidate satisfied all constitutional requirements. Now, of the state's 2,788,864 registered voters, some 598,229 were accredited for the election that featured 16 candidates from various political parties. Now, the total votes cast amounted to some 595,298, with 11,244 ballots rejected during the counting process. Well, now I'm being joined from Oka over in Anambra.
I, Professor Dauda Bright Omorige, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Vice Chancellor, University of Benin, hereby certify that I am the returning officer for the 2025 Anambra State Governorship election held on the 8th day of November 2025. I also certify that the election was contested and that a winner emerged. The candidate with the highest number of votes cast and percentage have all been computed. I therefore declare that Soludo Charles Chukwuma of the APGA having satisfied the requirement of the law and scored the highest number of votes in this election is hereby declared the winner and returned elected.
Well, there you have it. Well, I'm now being joined from Oka over in Anambra State Capital, that is the state capital, by Dr. Dauda Garuba. He is the director at the Center for Democracy and Development at CDG West Africa. He is here, of course, to speak about what he observed during the electoral exercise over in Anambra State amid widespread electoral malpractice. Accusations of that, and he'll also be talking to us about the implications for national politics, what all of this means. Thank you for your patience, Dr. Garuba. The floor is back over to you. Please do start with the obvious winner, but also the losers at this vote.
Well, as we all know, the votes have been, the polls have ended, and also the votes have been counted, and a winner has been declared. This morning, we saw Charles Soludo delivering an address to the citizens of the state, and also thanking them for a well-conducted exercise in which he emerged the winner. I've not heard from those who participated in the exercise alone, but talking from what I know that he said yesterday after he voted, he talked about only having opponent and not opposition. And the results, as we have them today, have already spoken to the fact that there was truly no opposition to him in this election. In that context, I want to agree with him with particular respect to that. The election held under a situation where you can say issues were not really in the forefront in the debate. And for me, I don't think that is good for our democracy. Somebody had said before now that there was no manifesto nobody knew what any of the parties that was participating in the election was putting on, and I truly agree with that. Looking at the Bangra paper that the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, issued even before the election, including the one on information and disinformation, there was no strong issue-based exercise as it happened.
All righty. Well, thank you for that first initial roundup. I mean, essentially, you've gone through who the obvious winner is, and clearly, when you look at the vote margin, this is something that is quite confirmatory in terms of the backing of the people of Anambra, India Anambra, behind the incumbent Charles Chukwuma Soludo. But despite this, against the backdrop of this landslide victory, there had been accusations of vote buying on both sides, or at least more than one accusation from different political parties. What do you have to say to that? Because on its face, it does feel as though the general consensus was that this vote was conducted fairly, freely, but unfortunately, we are still hearing the ramblings of some examples of electoral dysfunction, electoral fraud. When you are looking across at your experience covering this election, is that something that you can confirm you had also heard? Does that taint the sanctity of this election?
Well, vote buying, or let's say vote trading, is an emerging trend in elections in Nigeria. Looking at the off-cycle exercise that happened in Edo. Similarly, there was another elections in Odo, and this is the third one in a row. It's obvious that vote buying is an emerging trend, and we need to find a way to stem it. I saw it happen across the areas that I observed elections in Inoka South local government yesterday. And this were either done in cash or was done in through electronic transfers. And I think that it is a failure of governance in Nigeria that we have had to get ourselves on this particular bit of political behavior. The earlier we plan to stem this, the better for the country. Sincerely speaking, so much untoward happened with vote buying. So if we are going to have a system that will put the chief executives at the level of the state to do their bit and ensure that good governance is delivered, we might be able to just arrest that as it's emerging. But if we must take our democracy with all the seriousness that it needs, this is the next phase of disruption that we need to all organize around and ensure that our votes are freely given, and also governance itself is protected.
Agreed. I mean, and to this extent, when we were looking ahead to this election, in addition to the people of Anambra clearly wanting to find out who their next governor would be, whether or not it would be the incumbent or indeed another person, a lot of people outside the state were looking at this as a litmus test for Professor Joash Amupitan, the new head of the Independent National Electoral Commission. There was a lot of anticipation. This was going to be his opportunity to prove that he means business. Of course, this is a vote that was already set in stone before he emerged as the next leader. But clearly, a lot of people are going to use this, had been using this vote as really a report card for his early tenure in the role. What do you have to say about his performance, or rather how this election reflects on his performance as the leader of INEC?
For me, I only see this from the point of view of the challenges that he has to address as the new person in the driver's seat for electoral management in Nigeria. In one of my interviews towards ahead of the elections, I said it before that given that it took office at a very close time to the election. I mean, it was a couple of days. I personally wouldn't have in any case expected him to do anything different, because the bulk of the planning and the preparation was already done before he came to power. But the lessons I possibly think he should be taking from this is that the challenges of the process are things he needs to factor in as he's beginning to settle down to do the work that he is supposed to be saddled with. So as to whether he significantly effected any change, his coming has not in any case effected any change as to what happened in these elections.
I want to break this down now and just look at this in terms of analysis. Experience being that you were there, but also as someone who studies democracy so well. I mean, when we're looking at the breakdown of the numbers, on its face, clearly Charles Chukwuma Soludo was able to secure what has been described as a landslide. But when we're looking at other notable figures, names, party affiliations, there comes the conversation of Peter Obi and the fact that there's been such a disparity between when he sought to run for president and now looking at the numbers in terms of this governorship election. Does this show what the numbers would imply, which is that the people of Anambra are firmly committed to APGA and Charles Soludo? But for Peter Obi and his presidential ambitions, what does this say? How should he be feeling right now?
Well, there is usually power of incumbency that also works for Peter Obi. Don't forget the fact that across, there were 16 parties that were involved in this contest, and of them, only about 3 you will say that are well known. For instance, the PDP, the APC, and the Labour Party. And if you take a look at the way things have played out, all these parties have 1 or 2 crises that is rocking them. So you cannot say that there was outside APGA, there was really a party that was truly ready for these elections. In that context, I must say that I wasn't surprised that they all performed poorly. And leading to 2027, we need to really sit down and ask ourselves whether we are headed towards one-party states or we want to really stand for elections. And you also know, for instance, APGA is not a national party, and that will have implication for even what is going to happen in 2027, with particular respect to the kind of political alliances that will be seen built as we move on.
I'm glad you mentioned 2 things. I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that clearly what we've seen in Anambra is going to have, or perhaps has the potential to reverberate on a national level, because of course we are fast approaching 2027. So again, perhaps not even to reiterate your point just then, but just to go a bit deeper, what can the people of Nigeria expect from democracy if we are seeing a teetering of some point towards what people would fear to describe as a one-party state? There have been so many defections from various parties to the All Progressives Congress. Of course, we are moving ahead to 2027. We have a president who is clearly looking to be re-elected, and one of the routes that he's clearly been showing is that he's been able to consolidate what would have been political rivals into his fold. So again, for the furtherance of democracy, what does this mean for the people of Nigeria as they approach the 2027 elections? Is there going to be viable choices, or is this going to be an election in name but perhaps not in spirit?
Well, as a student of politics, I would ordinarily prefer an electoral system, moving towards 2027, that will be highly competitive, and also an electoral system where various parties will be selling their product and selling their programs, and the citizens have the opportunity of making the right decision. But we currently do not have a critical mass of people who are going to be engaging in this process. What we have seen so far, especially from southern Nigeria, is that the president is consolidating his power. We have seen governors jumping parties to join the ruling party. And we also, by the last visit of the Mr. President to this state, Anambra, we're also seeing some alliances being built, maybe on the understanding that we know APGA may not be featuring for the presidency, and some moves are already ongoing as to how do you get the state to support the national, the president at the national level. So perhaps what we are going to see is the cross north-south dimension of this. It's also going to require quite a lot of resources being deployed to get people to either support the president, or some are certainly going to be directly opposed to him. So for us, it is for the electorate to watch very closely as to where they want to put their votes, and also listen to those who are contesting for offices to know the kind of programs they have to sell. We must move beyond money politics. We must move beyond having to do some level of transactional exchanges with particular respect to money, because this is about our future and this is about the development of the country.
Dr. Garuba Adamu is the director of the Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you very much.
Dauda, please.
Garuba Dauda, my apologies. Thank you very much for joining us on this Stay Live, the Sunday Talk Show.